The most popular Magic the Gathering set is here, and we have a play booster box. Have you ever wondered if you can make a commander deck out of a play booster box? We're going to find out today. We've done this a handful of times before. We have opened up a play booster box and a handful of collector booster boxes, but I figured we'd crack another one of these. I've absolutely loved this set. So lots of legendary creatures for us to jump into. We're going to jump into the pack cracking action first, and then we'll go over and see what we can put together. Let's get to it. All right, here we go. Play boosters. Let's crack some packs. I am hoping that we can get pretty lucky with some cool pulls, lots of opportunities for some awesome stuff in the set. I have been very, very much enjoying it. If you've had a chance to open it, I hope you have been too. And if you haven't, well, hopefully you get to soon. Hopefully the second wave and some other stuff comes through. I know it's been pretty hard to pick up. Uh-oh. An Australian pack right there. All right. Get into it here. Big zoomies. Let's rock and roll. We'll move through the commons and uncommons, I'll say pretty quickly, just because that is how we can make it through. Also, if I can open this first pack, it looks like we are got the rares in the back. Call it anything cool that we see. Hey, Jumbo Cactuar, getting things going. Gubu Gardner. Pretty cool. Mr. Jumbo here. But yeah, we can get some cool through the ages. A couple of neat cards that we could look to see there. Titus, there's plenty of legendary creatures here. Ooh, our first mythic is in Shulta. Could be an interesting build around. Round 2. And a foily land. Full art, actually. That's pretty neat. But plenty of legendary creatures in this set. So, we've done a couple of these before. Did Modern Horizons 2. We've done Commander Masters, if you want to check out any previous put-togethers we've had. How about Godo Bandit Warlord? That's a legendary creature for us. It's Gilgamesh. It's cool. Summon Brynhilder. And a Dion. Okay. Cool. Couple more legendary options. Crossroads. We should have no problem with mana fixing in this set, which will be pretty nice. We do have a Blitz Ball, so we have a little bit of rampy action. This Chocobo Racetrack, and what is this? Summon GF Ifrit. Ooh, nice. Speaking of some mana fixing, starting town, that's nice. And these right here, these town lands are going to be great for us. See how we want to put the mana base together. Now we will need to find, well, we don't necessarily need to find, but it'd be ideal to find a good multicolor commander here. SMU. Ooh, and a Saz. Nice. Magic Damper. I mean, we could go real crazy. Get a Vivi. That would actually be pretty sweet. I feel like there's a lot of really cool stuff we could do with that. How about a Stroke at Midnight? That's cool. Gourmet, the Lion Heart. Rufus Shinra. Gilgamesh. He's coming in to grab you some equipments. Ooh, and a foily Balam. That's neat. And a wastes and a hero. Foily Balam is pretty cool. Vivi would be really sweet. Not gonna lie. I do also really want a Buster Sword. It's one of the few things that I have not opened as of yet, so that would be pretty cool. Summon Shiva. For catching a fish. How about a Tella? Look at that guy. Communing with beavers. Whoa, look at that. That's cool art card. Alright, so only one mythic so far. Obviously like to do slightly better in that department. What is this? Muldrotha. Okay, that could be kind of an interesting one. I don't really particularly want to use the Through the Ages, but this might be a good option. And Muldrotha could be a pretty sweet commander, I'm not gonna lie. Gyot. Coral. Poison the Waters, and Cecil. That's cool. Sorcerer Schemes. Nice. Well, Muldrotha's pretty neat. That's pretty cool. That's definitely an option. I'm not going to take it off the table here. It would be a good 3-color commander. Which would be pretty nice. Travel the overworld. Salvage. Jidor. Okay. Alright. First third of the box. First 10 packs. Pretty much out the way. Pretty decent. Nothing crazy. No major hits. What else we got here, though? Another Jador. Back to back. Unfortunately, we can only use one. A full art action. I haven't really seen again, there are a lot of legendary creatures at common and uncommon. Ooh, a little fatal push. That's cool. Goes well with our Muldrotha. Soul's Chosen. And woo. And Vane's Treachery. Nibelheim Aflame. There are just plenty of legendary creatures at uncommon though, so we'll have, again, lots of options. I want to say that's actually where a good portion of the multicolored options will come from. Sagen. Travel. Oron's Inspiration. Noctis. Okay, there's a good one. That could be a really this could be an interesting one. This could be a cool build around. Good 3-color commander. How about a Kefka? Wow. Okay. Neat. That could also be a really good option. That is cool. That is really cool. Nice pack. Also, I will let the internet argue with me on this, but there's a lot of conversation about this whitening at the top and on the sides, and that it's like actually part of the art or the frame, depending on how this is cut. And if you look, this card, I don't know, it doesn't look too terrible, but I don't think that's damage. I have a foil one of these that has the white at the top as well. Now I'm going to do some comparison to the foil one. So let me know what you think. Certainly I don't want the card to be damaged. And the rest of the pack looks pretty good. So I don't know. But let me know what you think. That is an ongoing argument on Reddit and some other locations. Oh, the Moogles. Da Moogles. Cool. Kafka's pretty neat. Good, good middle portion of the box, I would say. How about a Kenrith, the Returned King? Primal. Diamond Weapon. What is this? Torgal. He's a fine hound. Ooh, Squall's cool. It's another good legendary. Dwarven Castleguard, and we got back here a little art card. Squall could be cool too. That's another good one. White black. That little white horse, that might not be. I don't know. That's not bad. Little ramp, little removal. Seifer, Omzi. Ultimechia. Seifer's also an option, although probably not a great one. Unfortunately, we really do have to look for a good multicolored commander here. Just really probably not enough cards to support not a multicolored commander. Zidane is an option. Scheming. Excalibur. Ooh, and a Foily Hope. That's cool. That looks good. All right. Making it through it. Making it through it. We got here. Avon. Ether. Final Days. Choco Comet. Emperor of Palamecia. Ooh, nice. Good hit here. Sephiroth. Very cool. Very cool. That is awesome. Sick hit. Very, very nice. Bahamut. Okay, we will take that. We could build a mono black Sephiroth deck. Probably unlikely. But we could. He is a legendary. Cactuar. Garnet. Vanilli. And an Edgar. Reaching for the horizon as well. All right, 2 packs to go here in the middle portion of the box. Pretty good middle portion. Pretty happy with it. Kefka, Sephiroth, a couple other cool hits. Be happy with that. Some good options here. Cargo ship. Gaius. Side questing. Ooh, Arden. The Usurper. That's cool. Poisoning the waters. Nice. What do we got here? Dovin's Veto. Relentless. The Katana. Red could be an interesting one. There's some cool equipment there. Restoration magic. Hey, a Sid! Very cool. Into a Zodiark. And a Foily Rat. We got a Sid. We could build a Sid deck. And have any number of them. I haven't really been paying much attention, but I'm gonna say that's probably the only one we've gotten. Lightning Bolts. Gosh, I love the art on this Lightning Bolt. I think it's really cool. Esper. Elixir. Clash. Fragments. And a Sarah. And another Foily Rat. Didn't we already get a Foily Rat? Didn't the last pack literally have a Foily Rat in it? I feel like it did. We're far seeking. We're elixiring. Flash. We're armoring. Or Wandering. Mr. Wandering Minstrel. Be an interesting one, too. That'd give us all of the colors. I don't think we will go that route. Don't anticipate going that route. So Gigas or Waltzen. Vista. People reawakened into an Aerith. Very cool. Love the art on this Aerith. It's neat. Crystal's chosen. There's a Yuna art card. All right, getting down there, getting through them. Pretty good. Cool hits. I take one more good mythic or two. Maybe a really spicy Through the Ages. Bond the Street Thief. And Eject. And a Foily Thunder Magic. Ooh, we got here. Uja. Okay. Counter. Valkyrie Air Unit. Lionheart. The Sacrifice. I don't know how to say that guy's name. Black Mage's Rod. Alright, what do we got? 5 left, I think. I kind of do want Vivi because I feel like I'd like to try to build that. It could be kind of neat. Another lightning bolt. Look at that. Noah. Got the Queen. Go Sasa. Weston. And a Gilgamesh. Oh, Saz's Chocobo. That little guy. Furion. Wild Rose Warrior. Okay, 3 to go. Any last big hits here in this play booster box? Look, we got some options, which is good. Good options. Summon Leviathan's kind of an interesting one. How about double summons? We get the Bahamut. Very cool. That guy's sick. That's a good hit. That is a little double foil action right there in the back. Okay, well, nice little mythic grab. Little double rare pack as well. Never turn those down. And what do we got here? Summon Titan. All right, last pack of the box. Is there any last pack magic? Let's see. Torgal, such a fine hound. Roja. Demon Wall. Ignis, and a Balam. And a Renoa. Finish things off. Ooh. And a Sephiroth. Okay, let's take a quick look at the Through the Ages. Got Kuja. That could be an option too. Lightning bolts here. Dovin's Veto. Got the Noctis. It'll push. Got the Muldrotha, which is pretty sweet. And that could be a good option. Memories. And the Gilgamesh. Then, just this out of the way here a little bit. A quick look at the rares here. See if there's anything that stands out. I mean, Bahamut's a really cool hit. Could look at doing Sarah. Sephiroth's a really cool hit. Probably the 2 best hits of the box. Squall, I think, is an interesting option also. Kefka could be a cool option. This is a good hit too. So is Noctis. I think we got a couple really cool ideas and options here. Cecil. So starting town. Shulta. I just don't think we can manage a mono blue. And Jumbo Cactuar. Not a terrible box. Not a terrible box at all. Some cool hits here. And yeah, we'll get everything loaded up. And we'll see where we go with the build. And now for the build. It's been a handful of days since we put this together. We did a little bit of brewing, and I wanted to get a chance to actually play the deck at least once or twice to see how it functioned. Before we jump in here, if anybody is interested, I will have linked in the description below this to Moxfield. Down in Considering is the entire pool of cards that we ended up having access to. I've gotten a little bit faster with our import capabilities with a few tricks. So if you're interested in that, let me know if you're doing something similar so that you can mess around to build. But I will tell you off the bat, we did quite well. We had a really, really good variety of cards. I think we had every single common, which is probably pretty reasonable to expect. We had most uncommons, but not all of them. There were a handful that were missing that we could look to potentially add from the set here in the near future, potentially. And of course, we had many, many rares that we did not come across, as well as mythic rares. There are also a ton of Through the Ages cards that we could get access to. We had a pretty good smattering of those throughout this opening, but certainly some other cards that could also be pretty helpful. So here is the pool. You're going to be able to guess by the colors that are highlighted which colors we ended up going with. I want to say before we show the commander, I really thought we had a couple of options. I did not want to go and do a Through the Ages card. I wanted to make a pure Final Fantasy set specific card for our commander. We had plenty of good options here in multicolored. We had Sid, we had Cloud. There's quite a few as you take a look here. The set was actually pretty fun to be able to do because a lot of the uncommons are also legendary creatures. So if you're looking to do something similar, I think this is a good set. We've done a handful of these now at this point, and I would say this has been one of the better ones in terms of options. It's also been obviously a ton of fun, really enjoying the set and all that good stuff. So I think really besides what we ended up landing on, my next best options would have been either Noctis or Squall. I really do think that 3 colors was going to be necessary here. So Noctis is probably my runner up. I thought about and took a look. We had a pretty decent white pool of cards, which was good. Noctis is obviously going to thrive with being able to put artifacts into the graveyard. The unfortunate part is we don't have a ton of great options to do that. That's what really kind of moved me away from making this choice. If we would have had some of those options, could have been pretty cool. There is a equipment theme that, especially with job select, is really, really neat. We did end up leaning into that for our actual build. Noctis, I think, also could have helped us with that. Squall as a backup would have been really, really cool. Again, I think Black-White also had a pretty interesting setup for the equipment side of things, but we ended up going a little bit of a different direction. But those, I think, were my two primary best options for legendary creatures here, especially at the rare or mythic side. We could have also looked at maybe doing a towns build. Didn't really particularly want to do that because the 5 colors, maybe a little bit of easy mode, so wanted to do something just a little bit different. We've done a 5-color build in the past, and then really just pick all of the best cards, which isn't a bad thing. If you're looking to make the deck, I would say is the best and most competitive that it could be. Here, we're just trying to have some synergy, find some fun stuff to build, and obviously also have a good and functioning deck, which was primarily what we're trying to build around. So where we decided to go as we roll up here is with Kefka. I probably mentioned this throughout the opening. This card is sweet. We haven't had a chance to run a couple of games with this, not a ton. Done some gold fishing with it as well. Few things that I would probably tweak from this current build, but I'll talk about it really quickly here. Not going to run through every card. But the main gist of it was I wanted to be really strong in a couple of components. This set seems very, very good, especially in blue, black, and red, with removal and interaction, card draw being the secondary, and then we had quite a few good opportunities to take basically kind of two synergies of the set. One, which is essentially basically non-creature spells, and get the extra value out of those. Things like Emperor, Tella, and a handful of others like Shantoto can really make good use of that. Black Waltz as well. There's some really cool synergies with a couple of these really good uncommons that we can get some extra value, help to flip these things, help to draw some additional cards, help to make some hero tokens, pump up our creatures, deal some damage to each opponent. Black Waltz is pretty interesting for that. So that is one of the sides that I kind of wanted to lean into, and the set is obviously helping us to do that with a lot of what we had and what we had access to. The other piece of it is we also had a pretty solid focus around equipment and job select specifically. Rares like Firion here, Gilgamesh, we had both Master at Arms, as well as Godo, Bandit Warlord, can help to search up additional artifacts and equipment specifically, get those things equipped, make some pretty big attacks. Even some simple things like Item Shopkeep really help to also get some additional damage in. And we had some of the better, I would say, of the equipment. Simple things like Samurai's Katana was pretty cool. A couple of the others, what are the other ones that stood out? Like Sages is pretty solid too, just for simple commons, but that can help to get in. We do have some evasion as well, so we're able to put in a little bit of combat damage, sync that up with some other spells, could be pretty cool. Going back very quickly to the non-creature spells side of things, Ultros, Sahagin, like good low curve things that we can get out early, get some advantage from, and continue to kind of just lean into that advantage as well. A couple of things I will note up front. We have a sideboard of cards that I was considering that I did not include. I want to talk about those very quickly as well, and a couple of changes that I would make having jumped into this. But I will say overall, the deck did well where I thought it would do well. It had a few surprises. And then I had some things that I didn't think it was going to do very well, just because the set really doesn't help us to support that. Those are a few of the changes that we will make. What did it do very well? Great interaction. Great interaction in many instances, either the ability to bounce things, put things back in hand, shuffle them into library, or just outright take care of them. Obviously, a little bit more creature focused. So certainly some of the matchups and some of the other decks that we played against could either hurt or hamper that. But I felt like overall we had some pretty good options to take care of a lot of things, and also in many instances get some additional value. Things like Black Mage's Rod, for instance, and creating the wizards whenever we cast a non-creature spell. This creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. So there was some fairness, I would say, especially with our wizard creation, where we could get some extra cool value. We have Queen as well in the deck. If we can get a few attacks in, if we get a couple of these wizard tokens going, we can actually deal a pretty decent amount of damage. I will swap over here shortly into instants and sorceries, how everything lines up. But it was pretty good. If we could get that package online, we had a decent little package around that. We could certainly put in some damage that did maybe target us a little bit, but we could also kind of fight back again with some of the good removal that we have. Even simple things like Lightning Bolt, which I just had to throw in, probably not super great in a multiplayer game, but could be fun. But Thunder Magic, Suplex ended up being pretty cool. Sorcerer Schemes was a great way to grab some cards back and get some recursion for some spells that we needed. Even things like Choco Comet here that could add some additional blockers to the board and also get us some value was pretty neat. Things like Overkill, obviously Sephiroth's Intervention. We do pair that up with the awesome Sephiroth pull that we had. I think this package also just leaned as well as we could in most instances into our suite of mythics. Sephiroth, Ishulta here at the bottom was absolutely awesome with a couple of the folks, a couple of things that we can get on board, and then obviously Kefka as well as the commander. So it excelled there, it excelled in interaction. Our draw was pretty solid. Obviously, Kefka helps us to do that immensely. I was very, very impressed with Kefka. Obviously, getting to 8 mana ended up really being the one area where I knew the deck was going to struggle because it just doesn't have a lot of ramp available specifically in this color suite. In addition, it doesn't really have any ramp in the artifact slots besides Blitzball and besides Ring. We could look at potentially doing like Poo Poo UFO and some other things to add some extra lands. Maybe with the card draw, that would make sense. It's actually probably not a terrible idea to consider, but that doesn't still leave us with a ton of options. I knew the deck was going to struggle with this. I tried to, as best I could, overcompensate with card draw, but I think some of the tweaks that I will talk about will probably remove a few things to continue to build that up because we are so weak on the ability to ramp and get to our later game spells. And you really do want the opportunity to flip Kefka if you can. Whenever an opponent loses life during your turn, you draw that many cards. Being able to flip this and then even just pull something like a Lightning Bolt or be able to get a simple attack in with worth a couple points of damage, or cast a non-creature spell with some wizards on the board, causing opponents to lose life, just fuels you so well. If you can get that package established with this deck and have a little bit of a board presence, your card draw can go pretty insane and it's pretty awesome. Again, the problem ends up being I need to be able to get to 8 mana, and I don't want to have to wait until turn 8 if I don't need to do that. So looking for opportunities to do that. Again, I knew that's where the deck was going to struggle. It did in many instances. We were able to play our things. I think 38 lands was pretty good. We do have some decent fixing as we take a look at it. A little bit of life gain with Adventures In, but we have the Baron, the Capital City, Crossroads Village. We did have the Jador as well, which is kind of neat. Gold Saucer. This could help us when we're able to find this land. This could help us to ramp out. If we were able to win some flips, some treasure tokens would end up being really good in one of the games. We have Trino and Vector as well, so we had some pretty decent fixing, at least as far as the set is concerned. But that's really where I think we struggled the most. Other than that, curve-wise, it played out quite well. Let's take a look at that if I can here really quickly. I thought it curved out pretty well. There's a few changes that I would make. You see Summon Bahamut here. I'm going to remove this. Fun to include. Could be really fun to be able to play it. I think in one of the games it got stuck in my hand because it just never got to 9 mana. So that is something. Arden was kind of the same deal here. Although being able to play this and as it's if it can get to the beginning of its first combat without immediately being targeted can be exceptional. The hard part again is getting to that 8 mana. The 3 pips of black I was never worried about. Again, with our fixing and what we had, that was, and our card draw was never really a concern. But just getting there. So those are 2 likely cuts for the deck. Just again because we struggled so much with being able to ramp up. The rest of it ran pretty smooth. A couple of decent 1 mana spells, 2 and 3 mana was the majority of where we lived, and then some upper tier stuff here. 4 mana, 5 mana. We did have a decent amount of 6 mana, but I would consider these like kind of the bigger, splashier, help us to kind of start to really push through types of spells, which was pretty nice. Travel the Overworld, I want to say I casted once, not for 7, certainly, because we do have a decent number of towns in the deck, which was pretty good, so we got a little bit of discount for that. So other than that, the curve felt pretty good. Let's take a really quick look here at, if I can, click on it, the types, and we'll go and take a look. 28 total creatures, felt pretty decent. Felt like we were able to build a good board presence for the most part. Always have something on, obviously outside of like a board wipe or anything like that. Sorcerers, we had 10, 11 instants, 3 enchantments, 9 artifacts, and then obviously the rest lands here. This felt pretty solid. Again, we wanted a lot of opportunities to cast non-creature spells. Many of the cards that care about non-creature spells also end up caring about mana value 4 or more. We had a pretty good suite of those in most instances. Evil Reawakened was pretty solid for us. Even Circle of Power was pretty good. Choco Comet we could ramp up for our needs. Final Days was kind of an interesting one. Later in the game could be pretty good, but obviously also needs a decent suite of removal. So this is something that I could look to maybe potentially cut, but also kind of fit into that 4 mana and up plan. Some of our enchantments were pretty solid as well. And then again, some artifacts here that we added to it. So again, pretty good curve, pretty good, again, interaction, pretty good ways to get some things onto the board. If we could get some stuff to stick, and it wasn't immediately targeted, we could actually get some pretty decent value. And again, being able to, on turn 5, play Kefka, get a pretty good fuel into our hand. Hopefully we've played a couple of spells and gotten some board presence at that point. We're able to do that. We get refilled a little bit, then we can kind of start fueling a little bit and hopefully get a little bit of synergies either with the equipment here, with, you know, the handful that we had, Black Mage's Rod, Dark Knight's Greatsword, we have the Sage, the Samurai's Katana, Thief's Knife, Warrior Sword, all pretty solid. Happy to play each of those. A few of those ended up being a little bit better than others, as you would imagine, but them being able to come in as creatures also helped us to really establish that board presence. And then obviously we had some mana sinks that we could throw on or do some stuff with as well, which was pretty nice. So all in all, a fun deck. I think the right approach, at least from my perspective, and but some changes that we need to make. So let me go back to grouping this by color and talk about a couple of the changes that I would make post the build now that we've had a chance to play a game or two with it. First of all, summon Bahamut. That one is going to just move down to considering, and I just don't think we need to play it. I would say the same thing with Arden here. Just too difficult, in my opinion, to get this onto the board. If we had, let's say, a Soul Ring, for instance, if we had a few other ways to generate some creature tokens, we could look down here actually at our little Undercity Dire Rat. Problem is, this is like a one-time thing, making us just a single one. Not super impactful, I would say, but I think Arden could probably move over to the sideboard for consideration. Those things, unfortunately, didn't feel super great. Lightning Bolt is a cool inclusion, but very easily could make that move over. And then Final Days was the other one, again, that a lot of times when I had this in hand, we had a few things in the graveyard, but it also takes like attacking, getting some interaction, getting some of these things to die. You want the flashback cost on this to produce a really good amount of 2/2s, and it's in your graveyard only. And it just didn't ever really feel that way in at least a few games. I would give this one a little bit more time to test it out, play with it to see how it feels. But that's just kind of what I thought and where I was at with that. We could help to fuel it up a little bit with like Vane's Treachery and a few other things like Resentful, where we're putting things into the graveyard. But overall, we're just not really fueling it a ton, so that is something to consider. One of the things that I would move over immediately that I will add to the deck is Call of the Mountain Chocobo. I talked about needing to be able to ramp, and I talked about 4 mana spells. Originally, I looked at this card. I like it. You get a 2/2. You get a mountain. That's pretty cool. It does a few things. Didn't feel super impactful, but because we are so light on the ability to ramp, something that can touch multiple of those things and provide a blocker, pretty cool. So I actually definitely want to include this. I also think Opera Love Song makes an easy inclusion as well, because again, I think we need to lean very, very heavily into the card draw or additional card advantage type tools, and Opera Love Song can do that. The other cool part about Opera Love Song is it can act as, again, a non-creature spell at instant speed, which is a good thing for us, in addition to the fact that we could also pump up some creatures, have a little bit of a combat trick if we are trying to send some things in and maybe kill a few things or get some good combats for ourselves. Some other ones that we could think about, GF Ifrit here is certainly something that I think could be a good option. Potentially, if we were maybe to remove Lightning Bolt, we could throw this in. Again, the ability to loot here, not bad. Certainly something we could consider. World Map was another one. Probably need to find a slot for this because we can't help it to search up any land card, which isn't super impactful here, with the exception of the Gold Saucer. If we really want to try to ramp up, getting a World Map can help us to find this. Then being able to sink the mana into this, be able to make treasure tokens is pretty good. Also kind of build those up, potentially then use them to sacrifice as a draw engine as well. Not a bad deal. So I probably want to look for a spot for World Map. What would I remove? Hard to say. Syncopate is something that comes to mind. This spell wasn't particularly great. Again, because really just in many instances, we're either holding up a different spell or we don't have enough. If somebody else, other decks are able to ramp better than ours, we're not going to be able to outproduce for the mana that this could impact. So I think this is a reasonable sideboard move. Maybe some more time to play with this, but I think this one is an easy transition. This will work for me over to the main deck, and again, help to just push a little bit more into our veggies here and get our ramp up and running. So certainly not a perfect build at all. There is a few cards that we are missing. One that would be really, really nice is Fire Magic. One of the few uncommons that we did not get that you don't see here in red is Fire Magic. This deck also suffered just a little bit from the ability to do mass removal. So having an opportunity to kind of clear the board up, I think Fire Magic would be something that if we look to continue to add Final Fantasy cards to this, that we would certainly hope for. There's a couple others that I can't remember off the top of my head. There's a couple of uncommons that I also think would be quite good. And then there's a handful of rares that would be really, really great. Flames and Nibelheim would be great. That's another mass removal spell that could be pretty solid for us. There's a couple others. One of the few good big board presence wipes and multi impactful spells that we would have. Some of the Leviathan could be really, really cool. We actually do have the opportunity, depending on what creatures we draw, to not have our board completely wiped, although many instances this would do that, and that's something that's pretty neat. Quistis also ended up being pretty cool when we had the opportunity because we could leverage some other removal spells in graveyards, which was pretty neat when we got a couple of opportunities to do that. Still messing around with Ether. This was something that feels neat, fits into that 4 mana slot for non-creature spells, gives us a mana back, which is pretty cool. We get to copy things, so if we do have impactful spells, we could turn a Sephiroth's Intervention for, say, into 2 of those, which isn't bad. Gain some additional life. Even a handful of others in here could be pretty good. Overkill, maybe even some card draw spells like Combat Tutorial could be pretty neat. So there were some fun little micro synergies within the set that were pretty neat as well. So that's where we're sitting. That is how we built it. That is what we came up with. Hopefully enjoyed a little bit of this rundown. Obviously not a full deep dive on every single card, but if you want to go ahead and check out the deck, again, links in the description. I am going to upgrade this. So I talked about a few things that we would be on the lookout for. I have a gift bundle on the way. So look out for a future episode where we take that, crack that open. That'll give us a little bit, a small a small opportunity at some additional commander cards that could be good fits. I'm going to stick with Kefka as part of that because I would like to see what we turn it into, but there's a handful of cards that also we could take a look at. We've got some additional rares that we could pull that could be pretty neat, so we'll see what we are able to open up with that, and I think could be a pretty fun additional way to add some extra value and continue to refine the deck a little bit more. So if you're interested, be sure to stay tuned to the channel. Hopefully you enjoy stuff like this. Like I said, we've done these a handful of times. We have a few more sets that I'm excited to jump into here in the near term. Some good sets too. I don't want to spoil them, but I think you will enjoy them, especially if you are a Universes Beyond fan. That's maybe one little spoiler I will give, so very excited for that. And we do a whole bunch of pack openings and a lot of MTG Arena content as well. We have playlists for both, so if you are interested in checking that out, we'd really appreciate it. Do the YouTube thing here for me. Consider subscribing. Likes and comments are obviously very much appreciated. If you got any other different builds that you would consider, grab this deck list again from Moxfield. Take a look at it. Maybe craft something up yourself, and I would love to take a look at that. If you want to jump over to our Discord as well, we have a Magic the Gathering channel over there. We'd love to have you and discuss as well if you got some cool brews, or if you've had the opportunity to do this yourself. I think this is a really, really fun way to enjoy not only opening product, but also building commander decks and just doing some deck building and some crafting with some fun restrictions as well. If you can get a cool play group together to do this with, it is a very, very fun thing. And I've heard some really, really awesome ways to, again, continue to find ways to upgrade this, either adding packs at a time or doing other things, and maybe modifying the color restrictions as well. So if you do that, let me know, and certainly would love any of the feedback that you have. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll be sure to catch you in the next one. Peace.